And from Chicago, Windy City Underground Sports proudly presents the show where everything sports, everything Chicago. KJ Sports Talk.
Tuned in to KJ Sports Talk on Chicagoland Sports Radio. So today we're going to talk about today's mostly going to be about baseball and basketball. The NBA conference finals. We're going to get into that a little later on. We're going to talk obviously. So we're going to talk about the Chicago Sky. I'm going to talk about the Chicago Sky, specifically the Angel Reasons, and then give my input on it. I'm gonna also give my gonna give a few things about baseball. A little football Instagram. So we're gonna get you caught up with that before I dive deep into the Cubs, deep into the baseball and basketball. So with some news around the Bears, obviously second round pick, Luther Burden the third. He's looking to make his mark. He has that chip on his shoulder. He went viral for on day one of the draft for working out after he didn't get his name called, which ultimately led to the Bears drafted him in the second round in day two of the draft. Also, it's been a little confirmed that the Bears was trying to trade up for the Patriots for Trayvon Henderson, a running back out of Ohio State, part of the two-headed monsters between him and Quinshon Judkins. So the Patriots ultimately turned them down and drafted him instead. So I'm okay with that. I'm not mad at it. They tried to get a running back. I would have preferred Quinshon Judkins. He was my second option after Ashton Jensen, but I'm fine with the running back we have now. As anybody listening knows that I'm in love with the 7th-round pick. As far as like what he brings to the team, I feel like he can definitely contribute early if he's given a chance, and I do. And if I haven't told y'all my take, I do believe at some point in this season he will take over as the starting running back. It might be a Jordan Howard situation where he's not projected to be the starter, or he's not projected to get much playing time. He might not get playing time in the beginning. He may or may not. Given depends on how he performs at training camp. But I do think if an injury comes up between Roschon Johnson or DeAndre Swift, that he will prime himself and become the starting running back. And once he get a hold of it, he probably is not going to let it go. Hopefully, this is a Ryan Poles. This is a new guy who wants to pay his guys. Because the Bears for years have not paid their running backs. We've seen the plethora. The longest stint we have at running back since in my era that I've known of is Matt Forte, who's been around us for long. Even then, we got rid of him once we got better. So we're gonna see how they're gonna go. And I have updates. So according to an article, it's all but confirmed that the Bears will be moving to Arlington Heights, as they do own a racetrack property which they have purchased in Arlington Heights for a little under $200 million. Last month it was an agreement from the leaders of Arlington Heights they accepted it. They agreed for the Bears. They agreed on the Bears $5 billion project plan for building a stadium there. Anybody who hasn't listened knows that I'm actually a fan of the move, and if they were to move to Arlington Heights, which seems the most likely would be Soldier Field wouldn't be tore down, which they possibly would have had to tore it down in order to build a new stadium on the lakefront. Also, Arlington Heights is going to be a dome. I'm not a fan of the dome idea. I would prefer that we keep a hybrid stadium. Just so we can have that snow element, because that's what makes us the Bears. It's the same thing that makes Green Bay. You go there, it's like also with Buffalo, makes Buffalo. You have to play in those conditions, and that's something that we dreamed about. That's what makes us us. So with that, like I said, obviously the new stadium is going to be bigger. It's going to be more qualified. That means it's possibly that we might have the Super Bowl hosted in Arlington, but Arlington is not that long from Chicago, in my opinion. Arlington with traffic, you're looking at at max 90-minute drive from Arlington to Chicago, and Chicago, back and forth. With traffic, less with no traffic, which I have, and I can safely say that because I made the drive because one time I drove to Arlington before. It's less than an hour. It's not going to take you an hour with no traffic to get there. It's a great great there. I mean, it's like I said, great city, great little suburb to do it. It's a lot of teams like even New Jersey. I mean, even the New York Giants and the New York Knicks, they play in East Rutherford, New Jersey. So they play in a whole different state, which is not too far away from New York. But I'm okay. Like I said, I'm okay with the Bears moving there. I mean, like I said, I'm not a fan. I mean, obviously Soldier Field whole history, and we are the Chicago Bears, but us moving to Arlington Heights does nothing to it doesn't disrupt the city. It's still close enough so you can still visit the city and go to a Bears game. You can and still and not have to worry about too much on transportation there. I feel like it is definitely bigger seats, more seats for us. Is more of experience. I'm looking forward to going to the Bears game. I did vow not to go there to a Bears game for some circumstances. But if they was to move to Arlington, I would gladly break that vow and go to a Bears game just for the experience, and see how it is, and projected that in which for any like I said, it's all still speculations right now. It have yet to really be confirmed, but. If it is true and the Bears will move to Arlington, it's projected that the new stadium will be placed and that they will be set to play in that stadium in the year of 2028, which is about 3 years away from now. So you're looking for that. And also congratulations to the Philadelphia as they extended their head coach Nick Sirianni for a multi-year deal. So congrats to that. And then we're gonna transition back to Chicago and to the viral incident that happened over the weekend between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Angel Reese was battling for a rebound. Caitlin Clark pushed her in the back. And she fell. Obviously, tensions was up. The Chicago sky was down bad. And a lot of people had their input about it, calling her out. As me, I'm gonna come to her defense as always. Angel Reese is, here's the thing. I want people to understand. Angel Reese, she's a member of the Sky. As a fan of the Sky, I can understand why you feel that way. Why you feel like it was a flagrant. Caitlin got called for a flagrant on the foul. As an analyst, you probably, as somebody who's trying to be unbiased, my unbiased opinion, I probably wouldn't have called it for a flagrant. Unbiasedly, it was a regular foul. But like I said, in the heat of the moment, I understand it. This is, from my experience playing basketball, knowing that, any little thing could take someone off, especially when you're already frustrated. It doesn't take much, and as bad as it sounds, I actually like seeing that in Angel Reese, which is what makes me drawn to her, because she wears her emotions on her sleeve. Like I said, she's a competitor. She's feisty. She has that competitiveness. She finished bad. She had a bad game. I mean, but like to her standards, 12 points, 17 rebounds, 7 offensive rebounds. She was 5 from 13 from the field. Had a bunch of missed layups as usual. She was 1 for 2 from the 3, but like I said, it's still a learning curve. She still has to get better. Like I said, I'm not gonna be as lenient on her as I was in the past, because this is, she's in year 2. She's expected to make a growth. I still think of her as like a 15-point scorer at max. I don't have her, in her career, I don't see her scoring more than 15, averaging more than 15 a game. Rebounds, obviously, that's something like that's her strong suit. That's what she does. She's hustle, grit, obviously. So this is who she is. And I hate, the people, they get mad at her. I don't, like I said, I now understand the constant hate for her. Like, you give her hate for no reason until you realize that, hey, this is a city, this is a sport that doesn't get a lot of knowledge, that doesn't get, a lot of viewership, that's the viewership is just starting to go up. This is like, even when, everybody said the greats, Angel Wilson, them, you can say whatever you want to say about them, but Angel Reese is a household name, and for good reason. And this is here's my personal stand, and here's something I can personally speak on. The Sky has not been this relevant since she's been here. Point blank, period. So you can hate her as much as you want. You can talk trash about her. You can say what you want, but the Sky has been as relevant as they is since Angel Reese touchdown. And I've been a fan of the Sky for the longest. You know, I was a fan prior to Elaine Deladon joining us, so I can speak honestly on this. You know, as a guy who when I used to do, like I said, as I do my research on it, I wish I could show y'all when I look up my phone. And this was during the Candace Parker era. This is when this guy won the championship. You know, I'm there. You know, I was at a game. I've been to a game. I've been to a Candace Parker game. You know, I was at the game when he lost to Connecticut Sun, when Candace Parker almost had a 5-by-5. So I was at that game in the playoffs. So I've been to a Sky game. I know how. So I'm fully aware of the Sky, and I understand that their marketability. But Sky is one of the most marketable teams in the NBA. I mean, the WNBA, and because of Angel Reese. And it shows, like I said, and back to the phones, isn't it? Well, when looking up to Sky, you would just get the weather, you know. And this is during the Candace Parker era. So, and Candace Parker is regarded as one of the greatest WNBA players of all time. In my opinion, she's probably the greatest. Now, you know, her rookie season was sensational, even better. You know, even Caitlin Clark didn't top it. You know, she was, you know, you're talking about an MVP caliber player, one of the, you know, probably the greatest, you know, women's players of all time, you know, like I said. And even then, the Sky wasn't relevant. She brought her hometown its first championship, and we still wasn't relevant like that. You know, nobody still, you know, you go ask people about the Chicago Sky, they'll tell you the weather. Since Angel Reese been in now, oh, that's the WNBA team that Angel Reese plays for. Like, look it up. Like, if you don't believe me, just look up the Sky. You're gonna see Angel Reese. You know, you're gonna see something about the WNBA team. You know, that's gonna pop up. You know, you don't have to do anything extra. You're gonna see the top stories. They're getting just as much. You know, every time you look around, the Sky is in the news. You know, as far as like sports wise. You know, so and that's because of Angel Reese. And even then, recently, the Sky just has a new sponsor. We had a new sponsorship with the Sky from CoverGirl. I wonder who could possibly be that from. Who's the headline reason for that? You know. So obviously, you know, everybody want to. So it's like whatever she's doing, she has to build her brand. It's unfortunately, like I'm not, and like I'm saying, I'm not gonna always agree with her actions, but I understand it because like whatever she's doing work. Like, and a lot of people don't like her because I feel like a lot of people don't like her because she's brash. You know, she's gonna speak. You know, she's gonna speak her mind. She's gonna tell you how she feel. You know, she's not afraid to tell you if she's good. And that's the way and I don't have an issue with that because that's like, I understand it, like coming from my standpoint about it. You know, she's from Baltimore. Baltimore is tough. You know, Baltimore is one of those cities, you know, it's similar to Chicago, which is why I think she fits in so well here. You know, we are a big market city and a big branding city. And this is what she does. You know, Angel has a big name and she has a brand. She has that aura herself, you know. Everything she does is like is gonna make the news. The littlest thing, but it seems like people want to talk about the bad things. And for anybody who's criticizing her, I dare them to go find a person that knows her personally that will speak bad on her name easily, that speaks bad on her character. You won't find it. It's not really out there because everybody that speaks bad on her character doesn't know her. They don't talk to her. They don't deal with her. They only speaking on speculations. They only speaking on things that they choose to see. They have selective vision when it comes to her. So it is what it is. So it's like I said, like as far as the play itself, it was a basketball play, and I understand the tempers. You know, like I said, I understand why she reacted the way she reacted. I understand Caitlin Clark's standpoint. Like they both said it was basketball play. She was, like I said, Angel Reese was in the wrong, but like I said, being in that situation on both sides, I understand like why. You know, it's like it's the smallest thing with everything going wrong. She's a human being. She's gonna tick. She's not allowed to, but she does. You know, it's like she's still human. Like it doesn't take anything. It doesn't take anything away from that. You know, like I said, and that's somebody who's watching that, I look and for me, I'm always looking at the intangibles on her and their reaction. I would probably be upset if she didn't react the way she acted because it shows that she doesn't care. It shows she's not over it. You know, she's wants to win. Like, and I think a lot of people don't understand. Like, Angel Reese is a competitor. Like, she wants to compete. Like, she's there. Like, when she's on the floor, she's gonna compete. Like, that's bottom line. Like, whether you like it or not. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, she's gonna miss shots. She's gonna compete. She's not gonna be the best player, but she's gonna compete. And that's something you can't teach. You can't teach a player to go out there and gives it all. You could teach them good skills. You could teach a player how to shoot. You could teach a player how to do a proper layup. You could teach them how to dribble. You could teach them everything, but you can't teach heart. And that's one thing you can't take away from Angel Reese. She has heart. She has the heart of a lion. She's a go-getter. Like, she goes out there, she competes nights in, nights out. When she's out there, she's taking damage. She's, especially, and she does the dirty work. And that's not something that somebody of her stature you would expect. She is, in my opinion, the female Dennis Rodman. Like, she's the closest thing. She's Dennis Rodman in the WNBA. Like, you talking about a guy that's you talking about a person that's, you wouldn't think that cares about the game and that's smart enough, but night in and night out, it goes out there, they compete. They're not gonna give you the points. They will do everything that's need to be done. They're willing to get dirty. They're willing to get in. They're willing to cause. They're willing to be that wild card, and that's what she does. And she got under Caitlin Clark's skin. She does what she did. It worked, and I'm sorry that it happened that way, but it is what it is. And then another thing I want to speak on her before we get into baseball. The people are hypocrites, people are hypocrites. Often days we hear we want players to be enemies. We want players to not like each other. We want players to go at each other on the court. Well, ain't this her going at Caitlin Clark? Those little incidents that y'all seen her going at Caitlin Clark about, and that's what y'all want? I mean, are y'all not entertained? Like, is it honestly, if it wasn't her and she didn't have her personality, it wouldn't be this big of a deal. But because of who she is, it's probably that big of a deal. They make it that big of a deal. It's like they get mad. Like, and honestly, and I'm at this point, she can't please everybody. I mean, I get it now. Already starting to get it. You can't please everyone. So it's like, and it's like not worth trying to. So, and she's worked her butt off, but she goes at it. Like I said, it goes back to what I said about it. She's a competitor. She wants to compete. So on that court, she doesn't see Caitlin Clark as a friend. She sees her as an enemy, and as every right should be. Like, that's her motive. She wants to go out there and compete. Like, y'all looking at it as a rivalry. She look at it as like, okay, I'm gonna go compete. And obviously, everything you could tell, like a lot of stuff getting to her, and this is no excuses. This is just what it is. Like, and this is what happens in everybody's lives. Most people would react the same way. 99% of the people in that situation will react the same way. I've seen it. We all seen it happen. So, and the best thing, like I said, in the words of some ESPNs, just we got to move on. Let them compete. Like, that's what they do. They're competitors, and that's how and that's just the end of it. But with that being said, let's switch over to baseball. I want to talk about the Chicago Cubs and the White Sox, who just had that crosstown series over the weekend. Gentlemen, it was a easy sweep from the Cubs, who outscored them. We're gonna go, and for those who didn't watch it, we're gonna go down game by game and break it down. Starting with game one, which happened on May 16th, which was a Friday. So let's go over top of the inning. Miguel Vargas hit a homer against Kay Horton, who made his second appearance in that game. So he hit a homer, which started off 2-0. After that, the Latin Moses for the Cubs, the designated hitter, he hit a fielder's choice, which scored Michael Busch. Then Nico Horner hit another fielder's choice, which scored Carson Kelly in the bottom of the second. Then the PCA, Mr. P. Curl Armstrong, who I'm going to talk about in detail a little bit later, he hit a homer that scored the Latin Moses and Horner. So then Suzuki doubled, which scored Kyle Tucker. So after, the bottom of the second, the Cubs scored 6 unanswered to take the lead to 6-2. Then at the top of the third, Miguel Vargas homered again, hit a single home run to give the Sox 3-6 to score to 3-6. Then after that, it was just It was a Cubs takeover, starting with the bottom of the sixth with PCA singling, scoring Horner, Seiya Suzuki had a sacrifice fly, which scored PCA. Then in the seventh, PCA singled again, which scored two, hit a two-run single. Then in the bottom of the eighth was Swanson, who hit a sacrifice fly, and the Latin Moses had an RBI. Then Nico Horner, and after that it was game 13-3, which led the score to be 13-3. Caden Horton not having his best game, but luckily he has a good offense. He allowed 7 hits and 3 earned runs after being a very successful pitcher in AAA. Since he's been in the league, since he's been promoted, he's been easily hit. Hopefully he could work on that. And all in all, in total, the Cubs had 15 hits compared to the Sox 11. Run home runs at 24 total bases. And the White Sox obviously was the better pitching team, with the exception of the hits. They had 8 strikeouts compared to the Cubs 4 on 101 strikes, when the Cubs only had 89. Now we're on to game 2. So for game 2, let's see. Chase, the White Sox prospect, once again started off the game with a 1-0 lead for the White Sox. He homered in the first, top of the first. Then Miguel Maya and PCA. Then Miguel Maya and PCA scored in the bottom of the second to increase the lead from 2-1. Increase the lead from where they scored 4 unanswered runs to give the Cubs a 4-1 lead. Then in the top of the third, Miguel Vargas hit a sacrifice fly, which scored Taylor to give the Sox 2 runs. Then Tim Elko homered in the top of the fifth to bring the Sox within 1 point. Then after that, it was a Cubs takeover again, with Swanson homering, their Vidal Brujan hitting a ground rule double, then Nico Horner homering to give the Cubs a 7-3 lead and win the second and put them up 2-0 in the Crosstown Classic. So now we're going to go into the third game. So in the third game, it was the Cubs this time that would get the scoring started with Seiya Suzuki hitting a sacrifice fly, scoring in PCA. Miguel Vargas homered again. I think we give him his third homer, third homer of the series to tie the game in the top of the fourth, 1-1. Then after that, PCA hit a double in the bottom of the sixth, followed by Suzuki sacrifice flying. Then Bush hit a single in the center, which give the Cubs 3 unanswered runs to lead 4-1. Then after that, it was then in the top and the bottom of the seventh, Brujan scored, singled, and Nico Horner singled in the bottom of the eighth. Doubled in the bottom of the eighth to put the Cubs up 6-1. After that, Edgar Quieto he grounded out to the shortstop, which scored to give the Sox a 2, give the Sox another point. But at that point, it was scanning. After that would be the last point, which would be the end of the series, would lead to the Cubs winning 6-2 total. So, like I said, in total, the Sox only scored 8. No. Sox only scored 8 runs total, which was the Cubs had. So it was the total score of 26-8 by the Cubs, which is crazy. Not that crazy considering the fact that the Cubs are, in my opinion, one of the top offenses in the league, if not the top offense in the league. You could definitely tell they're one of the top 10s as a ranking just came out, and they're number 5th on the ranking. Last time when I was reading out some stats about them, they ranked like their lowest ranking, like as far as offense in total, like any offensive stats was 6, and that's like one of their lowest rankings. Compared to the Sox, who are who are the second worst team in the MLB total. Like the only team that's worse than them is the Colorado Rockies. But a little preview about the Sox. They're the Sox. They are after the loss. They will be taking on the Mariners today, later on tonight. So hopefully they could bounce back for that. And Davis Martin is projected to be on the mound to go against Luis Castillo. So, and we're gonna see how they're gonna go. As far as the Cubs, they will be taking on the Marlins tonight. They will be in Miami, and Ben Brown will be on the mound to go against Edgar Cabrera. So we're gonna see how that go. PCA in total has, in all 3 games against. We're gonna talk a little bit about PCA and one of the Sox players. PCA, he's an upcoming. He's a center field this season alone. He's primed to be an all-star. Probably gonna be. If the Cubs keep playing the way they plan, he's definitely gonna be an MVP candidate. So he looks to be the centerpiece. He's looking to take over as the centerpiece of the Cubs' future for his rebuilding. Down there now they're out. They're probably out the rebuilding stage. They're into the championship contending down there, trying to make themselves the serious contenders. And he looked to be the clog, that the main man, the main guy for that one. So he's definitely taken up. This is a guy, let's just look at him. He's betting 289. I mean, he's betting 290, which is good. Almost 300, close to 300. Right now, he's tied for 7th place in the MLB for homers with 12. Has 38 RBIs, which is top 5. Tied for 4th, to be exact. And he's 16th in OPS, which is with a 900 OPS. So he's definitely been growing crazy in his last 7 days. In his last 6 game appearances, he had 24 at bats with 11 hits, 2 home runs, 2 triples, 1 double. This is a guy, who is just as out here having a ball. He's balling out this season. You could definitely tell, like he's definitely made that jump. He's looking to become a superstar. If by the end of this season, he should be making his mark as a superstar. Definitely, so somebody to keep a lookout for. I'm definitely excited to, have him use. Obviously, he plays center field, so if you understand baseball, understand center field is one of those positions. That's one of the top positions. It's almost like the shortstop of the outfield. So it's that kind of position. Like you don't put anybody there. You have to be an absolute athlete to play there, and he's a specimen. His bat has come to life. Great guy. I'm excited to have him, and he's only 23 years old, and he's looking to lead this team. So he's definitely gonna. I look forward to watching him play and win the games. And play for us as much often as he can. And so I'm excited about that. But Sox, but even though the Sox lost, they should still be excited as one of their prospects. Shortstop Chase Meredith, who came over in a trade from the Boston Red Sox. He's been doing great. He has a average since he's been called up. He's been hitting 284. He has 1 home run, 4 RBIs. 720 on base. OPS. In his last 5 appearances, he had 8 hits and 20 at bats. 1 homer, 2 RBIs. This guy, he's projected to finish the game. He's projected to finish this year with, as his current projection is to finish this year with 3 homers, 79 hits, and definitely, and 14 RBs. So, obviously he's going to increase. He's definitely one of the Sox bright spots. Him and Tim Elko. So they guys are, like I said, I'm excited to see them play. As a I'm a Cubs fan, but I can't wait to see them play. Excited for the Sox. Obviously, them coming from last season they had a record breaking 121 losses. So to have these guys, they have some prospects that's ready to play, that's performing. So it's only gonna get better from here. So like I said, it's only could go up. So shout outs to them. And we're gonna spend a little more time on baseball. I mean, we're gonna speak on baseball next year. I mean, next episode when I talk more about the prospects. So look out for that. Next episode, we're gonna do a deep dive into the Chicago White Sox and the Chicago Cubs prospects. So I'm gonna look forward to having that. Now we're gonna go over to the NBA. Obviously, because me in Chicago, I'm gonna lead off with the Bulls. So with the Bulls situation, currently right now they're projected. Like I said, they're at the 12th pick in the draft. And usually when the draft day is usually one prospect that sticks around. And that right now that prospect is Colin Boyles from out of South Carolina. The Bulls have already talked to him at the combine, so he's an interesting prospect. If he falls to us at 12, there's no doubt in my mind that they're going to be taking him. So we're going to be looking at so look forward to next episode where I'm going to be talking more about him into depth. I'm going to be talking about him as a person, his whole journey to what led him to being in this position now. Look at some of his best games. So we're going to talk. So look forward to that. But now let's talk about the conference finals. It is set. We're down to the last 4 teams in the NBA. We're gonna get started with the West, and my personal favorite to win it all, Minnesota Timberwolves. We're gonna look at their 20. We're gonna look at their obviously we're gonna look at Anthony Edwards. He's a future MVP candidate, and right now he's the current candidate to be the face of the league, which is something everyone knows. There's gonna be the league is now looking for a new face with LeBron position. He's now that LeBron's at that point where he could retire at any given moment. So definitely, and right now Anthony Edwards is looking to be that guy. He's definitely has that dog. He reminds like Kevin Garnett, a famous NBA player who's with Chicago roots, once stated that in one of his shows that that Anthony Edwards reminds him of a '84 unpolished Michael Jordan. Since he said that, I've noticed that, and it's true. So let's take a look at how the Minnesota Timberwolves have they been playing, how they been stacking up. So this season and in this postseason, in their 2 series, Anthony Edwards has averaged a little bit under 27 points. He averaged 8 rebounds, around 6 assists, 1.5 steals. And him and like I said, he's been dog. He's the top dog in Minnesota. That's that's the world. There's no secret about it. He's not afraid to tell it. He's antics. You could tell he's that guy. He carries himself. Julius Randle has stepped up. I'm not the biggest fan of the Karl-Anthony Towns trade, but it's worked. I mean, it worked out great for New York, who we'll talk about a little bit later. But Julius Randle has stepped up. He's averaging around 24 points, about 6 rebounds, 6 assists, a little bit around a steal. He's definitely taking over. And my personal X factor for the Minnesota, Mr. Jaden McDaniels, he's averaging about 15 points, 6 rebounds, about 1 assist, a little bit under 2 steals, and about a little bit on the block on 1 turnover a game. So these guys, I'm excited about that because you have a physical specimen with Julius Randle who loves to play physical. It's who he is. He doesn't back down. You put him along with a Rudy Gobert who's widely renowned now as one of the greatest defenders of all time. I'm not one of those who thinks he is, but he's, you can definitely understand why people think that he's known as a shot blocker. Great guy. I mean, like I said, he's a great defensive. I mean, he's not going to give you much. He's not much of a scorer as he used to be, but he's great defensively. He learns his roles. He's definitely the man in the middle. He can handle the paint. He's a physical bruiser. He's a rim protector. He's going to give you that. So you put them two in your front court, then you have Jaden McDaniels who can defend, who's one of the greatest perimeter defenders, who can defend, who can knock down a three. So you tag that along with Anthony Edwards, who's priding himself on being a great defender as well, who's willing to defend, and who's personally told y'all he was going to be better at 3-point shooting. And what did he do to back it up? Nothing much. He just led the league in 3 points. He just led the league in 3 points made. Sounds like a lot like a Mike to me, type of guy who takes things personally and destroys people and destroys it. And so you have that. Then you have a Mike Conley, obviously the veteran guard out of one of my favorite football schools, Ohio State. So you have him to run that rim. So, which is amazing. Memphis legend. So Mike Conley definitely, that veteran voice in the locker room. So you have him there. Then off the bench, you have guys like Nikhil Alexander Walker, Dante DiVincenzo, playing some crunch times, and Naz Reid, who's giving them that edge off the bench, to play. And so shout outs to them. They've been playing well. We're gonna go over to the OKC, their opponents, who's one of the favorites to win. So, and let's look how they've been performing. You have Mr. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's MVP candidate and my pick for MVP. He's been averaging 29 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, a little under 2 steals on 2 turnovers a game. Then you have Jalen Williams, who has exerted himself as one of the better players in the league. He's averaging a little bit under 20 points, a little bit under 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Same with the steals and blocks along with Shai, with 1.5 turnovers a game. Then you have a generational talent within Chet Holmgren, who's been stepping up, averaging a little bit, 15 points, 8 rebounds. 15 points, 9 rebounds, 2 and over 2 blocks a game. Then Mr. Isaiah Hartenstein, who came over from the Knicks, new addition, averaging about 10 points, 8 rebounds, a little 2 assists. So with that, like I said, and then you have their bench. You have guys on their bench like Caruso, Lawrence Dortz, Aaron Wiggins, and Cason Wallen, and Isaiah Joe, who's all playing averaging double-digit minutes in the playoffs. So shout out to them. They've been these guys has been playing, and you can't, and they're one of the youngest. They're still one of the youngest team in the league. Though to play the way they playing, it is tremendous. Shout out to their GM. It is amazing. These guys has been amazing. And this is going to be a series. This is going to be a dogfight. I can very well see the series between them and Minnesota going to the 7-game series. And, as Shai Gilly fights to prove why he's the MVP, Anthony Edwards, and he's also fighting potentially for the face of the league. But him and Ant-Man, they're going to go at each other. It's going to be smooth. So I'm looking forward to see that, especially knowing Ant-Man, knowing him, his personality, himself. He's probably going to take the challenge to guard Shai himself. So I'm looking forward to that. Jalen Williams, I'm looking forward to seeing how he match up well. Him and Jaden Daniels, they're probably going to be matched up against each other. Obviously, Chet Holmgren, he's going to have to deal with Julius Randle, which is a physical specimen. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he did that. And Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein, he's going to be the one he's going to be putting the body on Rudy Gobert. He's going to be helping that out. So definitely looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing Caruso, former Bulls, step up, seeing how they're going to play. And for Chet Holmgren, anybody for future reference, he's like I said, a generational talent. I remember in the USA team, watching the highlights when it was just him and when he went against Wemby, like I said, and him and Kenneth Lofton, a guy who's overseas right now. I've been watching them playing. I've been watching them just teaming. They was on a under 17 team. It was like under 17 when they went against France. And I remember him and Kenneth Lofton, they made Wemby feel helpless. It's he was helpless going against those guys. I mean, he probably still had a good performance, but it's those two was just healthy. It was nothing much he could do against them. He tried his hardest. But those guys. So I know Chad Holmgren, he has it in him. I felt like if it was like any regular team, had he been drafted to any regular team, he probably would have been, his numbers would definitely be better. He would have been a star, but he's drafted to a team who has their franchise player with Shy Gilly. So I mean, and definitely showing so because last series they went against Denver. They took it to a game 7. They Denver tried their hardest. And it was a battle. It was known as the battle of MVPs because it was down like the two finalists. Well, everybody in the league know is the MVP is either going to Nikola Jokic or Shai Gilly, and Gilly won that thing, and he showed why he's the more valuable. He's the capable leader. He has this Thunder team looking good. Like nobody expected them to be this good this fast. Especially after when they once had they once was looked at as the top perimeter team. Especially when they had KD and Russ. So shout out to Shea. He has this team playing well. He's looking for it. I look forward to him to becoming the Thunder legend, like the biggest guy in OKC. So that's gonna be a dogfight. Even with that being said, I'm probably gonna say I'm gonna have Minnesota in 7 games because, like I said, you don't want to doubt that man. Like it's like I said, watching him is like Jordan. So this is a guy I expect him to compete. He's gonna find a way to win. He wants it. And I've said it. I said it last episode. I'm gonna say it this episode, and I'm gonna keep saying it. A long season in the playoffs. If he somehow finds a way to win this playoff, wins the finals, this run is gonna go down as legendary as Dirk. Now we're gonna go over to the East. I had these 2 teams losing their last series, but they shocked me, and shout out to them. So first, we're gonna start off with the New York Knicks. See how they've been doing. They're currently led by the 2-headed monster of Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. The latter, Karl-Anthony Towns, he's a former Minnesota, so that'll be interesting. Of Jalen Brunson, I remember him playing with Dallas. I remember his rookie year, he got cooked. He unfortunately had the guard roles. It didn't end well for him, but he has been on a tear, averaging 28 points, with three rebounds, 7 assists. So playing this game well. Karl-Anthony Towns, he's averaging a little bit under 20 points, 11 rebounds. And like I said, I've said this previously, he's probably one of the most talented players that I've ever seen in the league. Probably the most skilled player ever to touch the basketball. Definitely, I'm excited for him. They have OG Anunoby from former Toronto players who's averaging the most minutes, with 40 minutes per game in the playoffs, averaging about 15 points. Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, who along with Jalen Brunson was part of Villanueva national championship run. So you have that championship core there. Then you have guys like Miles McBride, Mitchell Robinson stepping up. So I'm looking forward to that. And they're led by head coach Tom Thibodeau, who's a former Bulls coach. So shout out to that. Like I said, and also one of their assistant coaches, Rick Bronson, who was the father of Jalen Brunson. So yeah, so like I said, this is a guy. This is a team that you can't count out. Last series they won against Boston. Jason Tatum unfortunately tore his Achilles in that series, but honestly speaking, they would have lost. Boston was losing that series regardless of Jalen. If Jalen Tatum didn't tear his Achilles, the Knicks had them at their mercy, and specifically Mikal Bridges had them at their mercy. In back-to-back games where he had a steal, a game-winning steal, first against Jaylen Brown, then against Jason Tatum. This guy, he's playing defense. He's probably right now one of the best perimeter defenders in the playoffs, if not the best. So next season, if he continue like this, he should see himself in the defensive player of the year runs. So like I said, I'm excited to watch how that transpire. We're gonna definitely get into it with that. We're gonna get more in tune with that. Like I said, so I mean, this series, their opponent, it's none other than the Indiana Pacers, which reunites a rivalries from the Reggie Miller Spike Lee saga, which is the 90s. So this is big, and some people could say this was foreshadowed with Tyrese Halliburton and Jalen Brunson make an appearance on a WWE episode. So I'm excited to see this. But with further ado, let's get over to Indiana, who's our sleepers. We're gonna start with Tyrese Halliburton, who has been on a tear since being announced the most overrated players, which was voted by his peers. He is averaging 17 points, five rebounds, and 9 assists. Pascal Siakam, he's also there averaging about 8 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. And then you got Miles Turner, who's averaging 16 points, 6 rebounds. So and about 2.5 blocks. So they got some guys there, like Aaron Nesmith playing, TJ McConnell, Benedict Mathurin. So like I said, Indiana, they're no cakewalk, but I do believe that they're not going to win this series because, the depth from New York is going to be too much for them to handle. And it's like Miles Turner has to going to have his handful dealing with Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns. Most likely, I project for him to be dealing with Karl-Anthony Towns because obviously, like I said, Karl-Anthony Towns commands that respect. He's that guy. He could shoot, he could dribble. So it's good. So Miles Turner's gonna have his handful of dealing with that alone. Pascal Siakam, he's also gonna be part of that. All right, Tyrese Halliburton is gonna have to deal with Jalen Brunson, and I think on the end he's gonna be. And I believe that Mikal Bridges should be covered. If I'm correct, Mikal Bridges will probably be guarding him. So he should be Mikal Bridges' assignment also. And like I said, this is a rivalry that states back to the 90s. These two teams, they used to get into it with the Reggie Miller, John Starks era, Patrick Ewing era. Both teams taking turns beating each other, making it to the finals. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to Reggie Miller, Spike Lee, looking for them to have jabbing at each other. So, and all that. I'm definitely gonna have fun with that situation. And ultimately, I do see New York making it, and I do see, Karl-Anthony Towns versus Ant-Man in the finals, two former teammates, and I felt they was good together. I know both of them are still a little bit hurt. There was a little hurt about the trade because they're, obviously close with each other. As you can hear from Karl-Anthony Towns telling a story about Ant-Man, when him wanting some insomnia cookies. So you can hear it. So definitely, like I said, this series is shaping up. The NBA playoffs is shaping up. It's going to be a dog versus dog fight. So obviously you have two teams with history with each other on one side. Then you have two dogs, two alphas on the other side, going at it. So this is going to be amazing. I can't wait for this. And I'm going to take these last time to talk about something that I'm looking for. Talk about a sport that I wish I could play professionally, which is called Ultimate Tag. I'm looking forward to I need to find an arena to play that in, so I can't wait for that. But definitely, with this, we have so many things coming up in sports. Thanks. Sorry, I'm looking forward to the draft. Looking forward to, obviously rookie minicamp should be starting up soon, shortly. So I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to see how the Bears play their running backs, to see how the coaching fits in, to see the rookies. I'm looking forward to see Luther Burden, Colston Loveland. He should be getting ready to ramp up. So I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, Caleb Williams. I also, speaking to Caleb Williams, I want to address the story. Rumors has it, it confirms what I knew heading into what I knew Caleb Williams was picky about teams heading into the draft. And it was rumors that he didn't want to be a Bear. All but confirmed. I'm not mad at it. Like I said, I'm kind of over the deal. Ryan Poles made it clear he's the quarterback. But obviously, Caleb Williams, shout outs to him. Like I said, anybody knows that I was actually present at the draft at Soldier Field when Caleb Williams was drafted. So I was there when he would talk with the announcers. So I guess it's kind of tough. It's kind of I'm like, it is what it is when it comes to Caleb Williams. Like, he wants to be here, so I'm happy for that. I'm excited to see him play, and I can't wait for him to do more. I can't wait for him this season. It's gonna be test time. It's gonna be go time. Like, I'm looking forward to in August. Him taking reps. I'm looking forward to seeing. Like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing him now that I'm looking forward to him establishing more himself as more of the guy. Now that he has rep with DJ Moore, he should know how to get him the ball. Roma Doomsday. I'm looking forward to that. I'm curious to how that's gonna work with him and Luther Burden. Both of them are excelling a slot. So obviously, Rome. I'm looking forward to seeing Rome take a leap to year 2 leap. Looking forward to the combination of Costa and Loveland. Looking forward to the combination of Costa and Loveland and Cole Kmet. Definitely, defensively, Jaquan Brisker. Hopefully he could stay healthy so the Bears could get him extended. Kyler Gordon, Za Frazier, Tyler Smith, Jalen Johnson, Tariq Stevenson. I'm looking forward to our DBs. Definitely about some teams around the league. Obviously, you want to see Ashton Jensen. I want to see how he performs. Browns, you kind of looking for. You want to see Derry. Looking forward to training camps, seeing their quarterback room. Seeing the quarterback battles there. Want to see JJ McCarthy hopefully he can make his speedy recovery, from his career-ending injury. From his season injury in preseason game of last year. So looking forward to seeing that. Some undrafted free agency. Obviously, Shiloh Sanders and Desmond Watson. Tampa Bay. I'm looking forward to seeing them. And the NBA has, the NFL. I'm looking forward to see what the NFL is going to do about the tush push. Like I said, I'm not a fan of the play itself, but I'm also not against. I'm not a fan, but I even don't want it to be banned worse. I don't want it to be banned because, like I said, it's effective play. Even though I'm not a personal fan of it, it's very effective, and I believe that if it works, keep going for it. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Like I said, I'm looking forward to watching Shiloh play this season. I probably should be more watching it. Definitely going to see some Shiloh, like if he's going to play, like want to see how he performs, like because from what I've been seeing, like I said, all I've been seeing nothing but workouts. Done nothing really mean anything to the pass. Come on, I'm noticing that Shiloh looks better. Desmond Watson looks better. Definitely in Tennessee, you want to see the Cam Ward. Now that I know Xavier Rest. I want to see him, Xavier. I want to see can they pick off what they had in Miami. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to a lot of things. So, like I said, I can't wait. Next week, as I stated earlier, we're gonna be doing some Cubs, White Sox prospects. We're gonna be looking at that. We're definitely gonna be looking at Colin Boyles for the Bulls. We're gonna be looking at the Sky. They're going to have more games under their belt, so I'm looking forward to watching that. And I got to have a better assessment of how injury season. I'm going to give y'all my projection for that season, so looking forward to that, how that's going to go out. I can't wait. I'm going to see you. It was nice and fun talking to you guys. I'm going to see y'all next week. So for sure. And so stay safe out there.